Oh, hell yeah. Oh, there we go. We got waveforms.
Nice.
We got WAV.
WAV. We have MP3 forms.
Yeah, dude. I mean, because MP3. Well, because there are all those side-by-sides going around now. I just did one, and I was really bummed, where they have, like, 3 versions of the same clip, but it's a mystery as to what file type they are.
Huh.
And it's this, like, experiment they've been running to see how much people can recognize and how much they care about audio quality. So I can't remember. I think one of them is like a wave, one of them is an MP3 320 or whatever, and the other one's like an MP3 180 or something.
And most people can't tell the difference between the varying levels of compression.
Yeah, that's sort of, and they're just sort of running that experiment because there are all these music services now, and I think the big thing with Tidal was about how like, oh, it's CD quality, but like CD quality isn't as good as like other qualities, and MP3 quality isn't as good as CD quality, and it's like so yeah. WAV or lossless. What about FLAC?
Yeah.
What about AAC in the house?
I feel like I one time listened to something as a FLAC file versus as like an MP3, and it felt very different.
I want to record a FLAC file wearing a FLAC jacket. I don't want to take a lot of flack for it because the track won't be very good.
Yeah, it'll just be it'll just be you saying FLAC over a really compressed beat.
Yeah, just like a beatnik ass bongo. Just like me doing spoken word poetry, but it's not really poetry because I'm just saying FLAC a lot. FLAC.
This episode of Dank Ass Stubs is brought to you by FLAC and all of its various varied meanings.
Various meanings.
However, whatever FLAC means to you, it brought this episode of Dank Ass Stubs to your door.
Whatever FLAC you happen to catch, hopefully it brought us with it.
However you have been mau-mau'd in the FLAC catcher, it's...
Mau-mau'd in the FLAC catcher?
Yeah, mau-mau in the FLAC catcher.
That sounds like a weird scat band.
I know it's from something. I forget what it means, but I know it's from something.
Oh, I just picked up this new record by Mau-Mau and the FLAC Catcher.
It does sound like something like that.
Yeah.
Watch it be just like a very obscure, like, Al Jarreau side project.
I just want to hear it.
Yeah, whatever it means.
Maybe.
Open forum for all the dank disciples out there to find out what Mau-Mau and the FLAC Catcher is.
Yeah,
let us know.
Go on the internet. We're not going to spell it out because that would make things too easy.
I have no idea how it's spelled.
I don't, too.
I don't, too.
Yeah, because we're joined in our don'tness.
Yeah, we don't even.
Don't ask Frubs.
Yes, don't ask Frubs. Welcome to Dank Ass Stubs, culture, comedy, and commentary from your wonderful hosts, Jaren and Ari.
Jaren and Ari, and also Dank Ass Stubs is also brought to you by Dank Ass Stubs, brought to you by Frank S. Tubbs Flank Ass Rubs. Spices for your next barbecue.
Put it on the meat.
Put it on the meat.
4th of July is coming up, or it's on its way, or it's already passed, depending on when you're listening to this.
Frank S. Tubbs Flank Ass Rubs. And also jerk. If you're looking to jerk your beef,
just
get this Caribbean jerk.
Get the
jerk.
That islander flavor.
Yeah, be a jerk.
Be a bad person.
Steve Martin. In The Jerk. I never saw The Jerk.
You never seen The Jerk?
I've never seen The Jerk.
Oh, it's a movie.
Alright, that's what I've heard about it. I've heard it,
I feel like The Jerk is like the granddaddy of most Will Ferrell comedies in that this isn't a story as much as just like really funny one-liners just kind of strung together arbitrarily with a man-child's main character that's just there to kind of like give a reason why all these ridiculous statements are coming out of anyone's mouth.
I can get down sometimes.
Because, I mean, it's like the Jerk started basically with Steve Martin's joke from his stand-up, which was, it was never easy for me. I was born a poor black child. And that was it. The joke is this white as white can be guy saying that to a crowd of people with a straight face. And then just like the Jerk was like, yeah, but let's do that for real. And then basically the Jerk is like this ridiculous kind of like, structurally, it's kind of like this ridiculous like, I can't believe I'm using this word for this goofy-ass Steve Martin comedy, but it's basically a Bildungsroman. It's a story of a kid with some issue plaguing his psyche as a child, like growing and learning and rising and falling and finding love and losing love and finding love again. But it's all just fucking ridiculous.
All right. Sounds ridiculous.
Oh, it's
pretty ridiculous.
It's sick ridic.
Sick ridic. Dude, hella rhymes today.
Yeah.
Frank Ass Tubs. Frank Ass Rubs. Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Not Frank Ass Tubs, the wonderful sponsor.
Of the many
we were talking about the jerks. Oh, Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell.
You know what I just watched?
What?
I watched the Will Ferrell Kristen Wiig Lifetime ass movie.
Oh.
A Deadly Adoption.
How was that?
Here's the thing. It's really hard to describe how it was because it was like...
It's funny because I was just laughing at... Okay, so the trailer for BoJack Horseman Season 2 dropped, and one of the little critical bylines is just hard to describe.
Hard to describe.
I'm not shitting you. It's like...
Was it posed in a way that was supposed to be funny, or was it just kind of using it?
It was thrown out there in a way that was supposed to be funny because it's like the trailer is showing just how whacked out and silly everything is.
Okay.
But just kind of, it's hilarious. It's like, well, with a show like BoJack Horseman, what do you... how do you market it outside of just saying it's hard to describe? It's like, one thing was like, BoJack Horseman is hilarious, and then the other two were like, hard to describe, and like nothing you've seen before. So it's almost like, one person said, oh, it's funny, and then it's like, oh, we can't find other people saying this is funny, so let's just go with what everyone else is saying, and that this show is weird beyond any measure. Weird beyond all measure.
Yeah, so I watched Deadly Adoption.
Deadly Adoption.
And, sorry, I'm looking up the other girls. So the thing is, like, I had this thought partway through the film, or the TV
movie.
This cinematic experience. The thing, like, a Deadly Adoption is like, I was sitting there to myself thinking, this is pretty bad, but it's not that bad. Like, it occupies this weird, inexplicable space because, like, everybody has basically said this about Lifetime now, is that Lifetime's recent output has been, like, very just, not self-parody, but self-aware. So it's like, it occupies this weird space now where they're not trying to be like, oh, this is groundbreaking. It's like, we get it. We are a Lifetime, we understand what we are. And here's the movie. Like, so you know what's going to happen, but there's something about the fact that the movies themselves also acknowledge that you know what's going to happen that makes them a little easier to kind of embrace. Because it's like, it's still a Lifetime movie, but for a Lifetime movie, there's some surprisingly good moments. Like,
so
it's really weird.
Is it a spoof or not?
No, like, they play it straight. Like, Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig play it straight. They're very earnest.
Are they playing it straight like they played...
It's not the Spoils of Babylon.
It's not.
It's not the Spoils of Babylon.
Okay, so that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it quite, because, yeah, it's not self-parody. Again, it's like Lifetime seems to have found this weird niche where they've acknowledged just how people perceive them and what their movies are generally like, you know, these sort of pulp dramas. And just sort of have embraced that thing. And
so they just cast two comedic actors in still a self-indulgent pulp drama.
Yeah.
Without playing the self-indulgent pulp drama as a comedy. But my brain is kind of breaking. I think I have to see this.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, it was you know, it's a Lifetime movie, but not a Lifetime movie. It's like a Lifetime movie. Like, it kind of breaks your head to try and describe it. But yeah, no, Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig are good. Like, and there's all sorts of, like, their daughter has some kind of diabetes, and then, like, their other kid dies because, like, Kristen Wiig, she was out on the rotting dock at their house, and she fell over the edge because she was out on the rotting dock, and now he blames himself for their child's death. Like, it's, you know, it's very Lifetime-y.
Wow.
And then more shit ensues, but, you know. And Jessica Lowndes, who like, when she has to go all crazy and shit, like, pretty good performance. Like, it's weird.
Jeebus.
Yeah, so
my brain is breaking.
It's like, it's something you enjoy in spite of itself, but also not in spite of itself because it understands too. And it doesn't try to get too wacky with it. It's not the guy who's like, no, I know, guys, right? Like, it's like, I know. I'm gonna still be me, though. Like, you know, it's weird. But yeah, it was interesting. It was some Will Ferrell-ass adoption shit.
Speaking of the spoils of Babylon, there's some other spoils of...
The Spoils Before Dying.
The Spoils Before Dying.
3-part miniseries.
Yeah, so IFC is coming out with another Eric John Rosh masterpiece.
I'm so excited. I mean, Spoils of Babylon, I was so tickled by. Like...
Yeah, I still got to finish that. I started and I never got back to finishing The Spoils of Babylon. The Spoils of Babylon, for the uninitiated, is like a miniseries that was on IFC, but made by Funny or Die, starring...
Yeah, it's like Will Ferrell and Adam McKay.
Yeah, helming.
Helming, yeah.
And it's like a parody of, like, 70s Pop Boiler miniseries.
Yeah.
So it's been described. And the closest thing that I've seen it reminded me of was the Carpetbaggers, if anyone's ever seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a brief summary for the folks playing along at home.
Okay. I mean, so it's like just kind of like this story of, you know, the history of this guy in this extremely, the Tobey Maguire plays like this changeling guy who doesn't know where he comes from. He's just like he was a kid with amnesia that gets found by.
Spoils. I thought you were going to...
the Spoils.
Some Carpetbagger.
Well, by the way, Tobey Maguire was in the Carpetbaggers. But, no, he wasn't. So it's like, there are similar themes to the Carpetbaggers if you've ever seen it, which I doubt anyone has ever seen the Carpetbaggers.
Oh, okay. Because it's
nobody who is under double my age has seen the Carpetbaggers.
You've seen too much. They're gonna hunt you down.
Obama's the carpetbagger force is going to come out of the woodwork and take me to Guantanamo because I know too much.
Yeah, you've seen too much.
I'm the Eric Snowden of the carpetbaggers.
Dude, that needs to be your title forever. Hailed as the
Edward Snowden. I said Eric Snowden, didn't I?
I was about to say it too, and then I was like, wait a minute, is that right?
It's super wrong.
Edward Snowden.
He doesn't have a first name anymore, if Oliver Stone is to be believed. He's just Snowden now.
Snow Deezy.
Snow Dizzle.
Snow for Deezy. Yeah, no, it's this sort of like epic, like the rise and fall of a family.
A family empire.
Coming up from nothing, and then like intrigue, deceit, betrayal, romance, forbidden love, extraneous bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, and it's... I don't know, like, I saw Spoils of Babylon, I was just so tickled.
And as it continues, it gets more and more bizarre and more off the rails. And there's a whole, like...
Well, because it covers, like, every major, like, time period and event. Like, at one point, he's in World War II, and then at one point, he's, like, a beatnik, like, doing drugs and writing beat poetry.
Yeah, there's, like, this whole, like, hard bop, like, segment where just, like, the whole episode, most of it's just this one... long montage over Tobey Maguire doing a weird parody beat poem.
But even a weird parody beat poem is kind of a great thing. Like,
it is kind of cool and kind of well done, and like it feels very authentic.
Yeah, it's like
someone researched actual beat poetry to make this.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's funny he's doing beat poetry, but then you actually kind of get into it and it just keeps going, and you're like, oh, this is pretty good.
It feels like it's half bizarre, but he's half saying, like, salient points about, like, the subculture of Greenwich Village and the rise of heroin.
Charlie Parker Duke-to-do. It's so great. And, like, I mean... and
rest in peace, Bird.
Just, like, I just admire, like, that's... you know, there are a lot of things that appeal to me in comedy, but that kind of thing is sort of my kind of comedy, because it's like absurd and silly, and things just kind of happen because, and like certain stuff is referential, and then other things are very, you know, just esoteric
and kind of arbitrary, but in an arbitrary way that still feels kind of earned.
Yeah, it's just like there's randomly terrible continuity, and then some of the things characters say, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just loved it. I loved it so much.
And all the while, Will Ferrell is at the beginning and at the end of every segment of the miniseries playing this like ridiculous, overblown, like late Orson Welles type guy named Eric John Roche, who very clearly just like went way too drunk and self-indulgent with making this miniseries, and that's why it's not just a movie.
With the entire cast.
Yeah, and he's getting increasingly drunk as he's sitting in this restaurant talking about the making of the spoils of Babylon.
Yeah.
So like midway through it, he's slurring the title so much. It's just like this
spoils of Babylon.
The spoils of Babylon.
Oh, I want to watch it again. I watched it.
I gotta watch it through. I have to finish it. I have to begin it. I have to middle it, and I have to end it.
Dude, get your ass on that.
I do. I must.
Because now
I must.
I must increase our bust.
Getting arrested by the narc officers.
Because now there's a new one called "Spoils Before Dying," which is like a. This is not what I was looking for.
Apparently, also an Eric John Roche joint.
It adapts his epic tale of a pianist turned detective investigating a murder in the 1950s underground jazz scene.
Oh God!
Yes,
I'm so down.
Oh, and who's the star? Because that guy. Oh, that guy's great. Spoils. This is the thrilling part where I Google things.
Yes. Hold on to your butts. It's Google time.
Hold on to your butts.
We got to come up with a song for Google time.
Google time. Google time. This song sucks, but it's Google time.
I like it.
Bye.
We just got to throw somebody like lazily playing a thumb piano over that.
Michael Kenneth Williams.
Who is that man?
Michael Kenneth Williams. You've seen him in stuff before, but I'll refresh you.
I don't see things.
Dude, you should see a thing.
I have never seen a single thing in my life.
There's some pretty cool ass things.
I don't believe you.
He's in Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone. Yeah. Not the David Fincher movie, but the Casey Affleck film.
Oh, he's in 12 Years a Slave.
He's in 12 Years a Slave? Who is he in 12 Years a Slave? Which year is he?
The Robot Cop. He was in the Purge Anarchy. Oh, I think he was on...
I do not think he was the Robot Cop in 12 Years a Slave.
He was. He very much was. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Shut up.
I don't recall Robot Cop in 12 Years a Slave.
He's on The Wire.
The Wire?
Yeah, he's on The Wire. That's why.
The Wire?
Everybody be freaking out because he was on The Wire.
Oh, man, The Wire.
Michael Kenneth. We have to have like an actual song that just plays under all of Google time while we... Here, I'll show you his likeness.
It's going to be an offbeat version of the Jeopardy, like, waiting music. Oh! Oh my god, is he Omar?
He might be. Everybody loves Omar.
Is he Omar from The Wire? He looks...
He might be Omar from The Wire.
I never watched The Wire.
I've never watched The Wire either,
but everyone knows Omar. You gotta watch The Wire. There's the part where Omar is coming.
There's the part where Omar is in The Wire and is everyone's favorite character.
Everyone loves Omar.
Everyone loves Omar. Oh, he's Inherent Vice, that's right.
Oh, was he Inherent or was he Device?
Yeah, he was Omar.
I was gonna harmonize with you and say. The Saints.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I was trying to create some dissonance.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael Kenneth Williams is in it. Maya Rudolph is in it.
Maya Rudolph?
Yeah, Will Ferrell is Eric John Roche again. Haley Joel Osment is back.
Oh, better than ever.
Hey, I mean, seeing the Spoils of Babylon, I was like, oh wow, like because I hadn't seen him in a while, and he's really funny.
I did not get to the part where Haley Joel Osment's character shows up.
Oh, you just wait.
I will just wait. I'm waiting. Tonight's episode is not even about the Spoils of Babylon.
No,
but we're excited for the Spoils of Babylon. We're going to start off this episode for things we're excited for. I'm excited for BoJack Horseman Season 2.
And I'm excited for the Spoils Before Dying.
I'm excited for the Spoils Before Dying.
I'm excited for BoJack Horseman.
I'm excited to finish the Spoils of Babylon.
I'm excited to probably rewatch that at some point. I finished the season of Game of Thrones, and then I finished the season of Mad Men. Now all I have is the last 7 episodes.
Are there people who are like Let's Players but for TV? Because there's a lot of TV out there that I need to watch, and it would be cool.
Bad idea.
It would be cool if I had to watch that much TV, it would be cool to get paid for it, because it seems like after a while, when people keep on saying, "Oh, you have to watch this, you have to watch that," it feels like watching TV is now a job that everyone has, but everyone's not doing enough work at.
Well, yeah, because there's so many shows that are so purportedly great.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do I do?
Damn you, new Gilded Age of television.
Yeah.
Damn you to heck.
It's hard,
I'm sorry,
man.
I didn't mean that strong language.
It's everything I could do to start jumping on a couple of these shows. I'm glad I did. Like, I loved the shit out of Mad Men.
I gotta watch Mad Men.
Mad Men's fucking great.
I gotta watch The Maddest of Men.
I think you would dig it.
I think I would dig Mad Men.
You would dig Mad Men.
I'm a white guy. I would love Mad Men, probably.
Hey, the 60s happened on Mad Men, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Mad Men's awesome. I just finished the first... They're doing a Breaking Bad where it's like Season 7A and Season 7B. Or whatever. Yeah. So, granted, all that has already aired.
Yeah,
but I gotta watch the second
There are no more Mad Men. They're all calm now.
I gotta watch
They're all chill.
The second half, so I can watch them all chill, respectively. But yeah, it's pretty heavy, pretty good. And then I finished the season of Game of Thrones, which was also, but I won't spoil that like it was spoiled for me.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It actually was okay because
who spoiled it for you?
The internet, because the internet has this weird thing now where it's like it's looping back around where people are like, okay, I want to post, I have to post, but I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to put like the kitty gloves on to such a degree that now it's kind of obvious what I'm talking about, even though I'm really trying to dance around it. And like in trying to dance around it, I'm pretty much just saying it. So like,
well, shit.
Yeah. But it was great. It was okay, because, like, the thing that was spoiled, I wasn't expecting the moment at all, so it was still a punch.
Okay. You knew it was coming, but you didn't know when.
Yeah, well, and I was just watching the episode, and I kind of got caught up in it, so I forgot to think about it, you know? So, you know, that's a thing. But yeah, no, television is hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
I admire those who can do it. I do a mediocre job at best.
I gotta say, you know, it's a good thing that movies suck so much. Because it's like, oh, now I can just focus on TV, and I don't have to bother with most movies.
Dude. Like, things are so weird now because, like, people flock. Like, you know, a lot of the movies. Not that all big movies are bad, but like people flock to. You know, it's easy for a big, loud, noisy, dumb movie to make $1 bajillion, and people freak out about, you know, pretty simple stuff. You know, it's like people freak out over blockbuster tentpole action movies and stuff like that. Like, oh my god, Fast Furious 7! You know, which, you know, however fun those might be, don't seem like they're particularly, you know, groundbreaking in any way.
I mean, they probably, like, do severe damage to the actual ground in the course of like driving so recklessly over them.
Well, maybe that's maybe they are
tearing up the
literally
asphalt.
Groundbreaking. Like San Andreas literally broke lots of ground.
Yeah, CGI ground.
Yeah, not real ground. Well, because that would
cost too much.
The city infrastructure, you know. But like at the same time, people freak out about arguably not overly qualitative in some respect movies. And people then freak out about really great shows. And it's weird, like, because oftentimes it's the same people. It's like the same people look forward to a big, loud, noisy thing at the movie theater, but at home we're like, oh, this show is so good. And it's like really, you know,
almost like
quality writing.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like we're kind of distilling what people want out of a movie versus what they want out of TV. And it's like people have become kind of like almost like bifurcated in a sense where it's like, oh, if I want something that's going to be like mind bending or really emotionally gripping or really intellectually stimulating and intimate and really get at me at a personal smart level, I'm going to watch it in the comfort of my own home alone with, you know, just me in my own domain and me connected to the show. and with a lot of time to let things develop. Whereas if I'm going into a movie theater where I'm in a dark room with strangers, with a shit ton of strangers, and, you know, I'm only going to be there for 2 hours, just, you know, make shit blow up. And just give me, and because, you know, I have this enormous screen in front of me and I'm with people I'm not connecting to because it's a room full of strangers. So show me a lot of cool shit blowing up. Maybe that's secretly what people wanted out of TV serials versus what they wanted out of movies this whole time, and it's now just like we're kind of drifting into that world.
I feel like you can make an argument in a different direction.
Or maybe it's just a matter of just kind of like different cultural factors and different trends that have kind of like sprung up between TV and movies.
Well, I almost think that now, it's like for what we demand of entertainment now in any regard, it seems like TV has the means to do what people are demanding in a better way. Because think about it, like, every movie that does marginally okay, everyone's like, sequel! And then it's like, well, shit, we told a complete story. What do we do now? And it's like on TV...
Minions movie! Give the Minions their own movie! A movie for the Minions!
Although, I mean, I almost prefer that, at least
to
because
Despicable Me 3.
Yeah, kind of, because at least it's changing the focus now. It's like, you know, let's...
I had someone explain to me, it's like, the reason why Shrek was such a smash hit, but no one thinks highly of, like, Shrek 3 or Shrek 4, is, like, Shrek's arc as a human being or as a character was completed in Shrek 1.
Yeah, exactly.
He was grumpy man who was misanthropic and didn't want to connect to anybody, and then he learns to be vulnerable and open himself up to love.
Yeah.
And then that's it. His story is done. Now, so it's like...
now he's a real boy.
And now he's a real boy. So it's like 3 more Shrek movies. It's like, what's there left to do?
What do we do?
He's done. He's you know, cashed his check. He's grown as an ogre.
As an ogre.
Yeah. He's love. He's life. It's over.
I feel like TV can solve a lot of problems because it's also like now we expect these franchise movies. So it's like you have to have like a complete story for 2 hours. You have to have some kind of arc, but you can't have too much of an arc because, you know, there's got to be something to chew on next time. But you kind of have to have some intelligence. And some movies manage it, but a lot of the big blockbuster stuff is like, okay, here are some kind of neat ideas and a lot of cool shit around them. Whereas I feel like TV now can be like, we can have our great dialogue and our character development, and we can have cool shit, and we can keep this going for a long time so that the people who are attached to these characters can check in with them over time. You know, so it's like, I feel like in the current environment, it's harder to keep a movie franchise going than it is to just flesh out a story over a few seasons of TV.
Yeah.
Because especially now that we've embraced the mini-series, at least in America, it's like, you can basically...
The anthology series.
Yeah, it's like you can give your movie breathing room now. You know?
I'm concerned now, it's like what this is going to do for the landscape for movies, like for instance, Ex Machina. Ex Machina was done. You know, it's like you're not going to have an Ex Machina 2.
This is her chilling out in New York.
Yeah. No, it's like Ex Machina had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the whole story, you know, the whole parable and the whole fable of Ex Machina was done in those 2 however many hours. Her had a beginning, middle, and end, and it was done. It said what it needed to say.
Yeah.
So it's like if the whole focus of if you're going to make a movie, you have to, you know, be willing to make 5 movies. It's just I don't know what that's going to do for people who want to make something like an Ex Machina or Her or I don't know, any number of like great movies we've seen that are just nice and self-contained and, you know, they're finished when they're done.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they'll still get made. I feel like it'll probably continue the way it is now, where it's like they'll get made. It'll just be, you know, perhaps not as many as should get made will get made. Because now it's like everything is franchised.
At least until there's another. I mean, if what we're looking at with the big tentpole Hollywood status is just like, you know, another economic bubble, bubbles always burst.
Yeah, true. I don't know. And that's the weird thing about...
This is what Karl Marx called the crises of overproduction.
Oh, Shaz.
Yeah.
Well, this summer is heavily... Like, this is the most bloated summer in a long time. Just for giant...
We've announced another Spider-Man reboot. Hey!
How many times are we going to do this? I like Spider-Man. Man, Spider-Man was my boy. Like, Spider-Man was my favorite superhero. I grew up with those Sam Raimi movies. Let's not do that again. Let's. I was down for the whole, like, you know, if we have to have Spider-Man again, let's introduce him in another movie and just have him already be a thing.
I'm just thinking, it's like people are like, oh man, I can't wait for Spider-Man to be in the Avengers. I'm just thinking, why? There's already like 19 people who are the main character in the Avengers.
Well, I can get down with that because it's like, you know, anytime you have a universe full of superheroes, it's like you want to create combinations. And that's not a problem to me. It's like, I get why someone would say, I want to see Spider-Man in the Avengers, or I want to see Wolverine in the Avengers, because it's like, yeah, you know, I get it. You rotate in a different character, and it seems like, especially with how Age of Ultron went, they're gonna rotate some things.
Okay, so it's not just going to be like they're stacking on the new character with every new Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's not like the next Avengers is going to feature the main cast of the Avengers already, plus Scarlet Witch, plus Quicksilver, plus Ant-Man, plus Doctor Strange, plus Black Panther.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what...
Plus Namor.
Yeah. Namor. I don't know what...
Namor's never going to get a movie.
You never know. Well, that's the thing about Marvel, is you never know, because
Namor's never going to get a movie.
You never know.
Because one of the rights were, like, weirdly tied up with Universal. I think they still are, and it's also, like... WB has already got Aquaman in the can, and Namor isn't even on the slate for Marvel.
Everybody want that Marvel money, though.
I know. So hopefully there will be a giant economic collapse in the tentpole movie market before that's possible.
Well, here's the thing, man.
My dream is for the bottom to fall out of Marvel before they get to do the Avengers 3.
That's not gonna happen.
What?
That's not gonna happen.
No?
Maybe before the Avengers 4, not before the Avengers 3.
No?
Or at least 3A.
How long? Oh, that's right, because it's a tour.
Yeah.
It's a tour. Ugh.
Well, see, Marvel's an interesting beast to me because, you know, I feel like a weirdo because I'm sort of like a day walker because, you know, I flux between the two worlds. It's like, I can get down at a summer popcorn movie, like, you know, especially for all the Real Reject stuff, you know, I end up seeing a lot of the big tentpole things, and, you know, some of them are tough to sit through, and others are fun, at least while I'm there.
What was the worst one to sit through?
Oh, man.
That you can recall.
I feel like I gotta get a new example, but Hangover 3 was... Ugh. Oh, that... Hangover 3 was, and I think that was closer to the summertime, too. That was like a big, like, oh, it's the end of a trilogy. And I was like, this didn't need to be a franchise.
This should have never been a trilogy.
Yeah, and you don't understand comedy. And this is like, that was one of the ones that actually made me angry watching.
It wasn't the whatever Transformers sequel made you just say, it was 2 hours and 50 minutes over and over.
Yeah, I didn't even see, I admit, I haven't seen a Transformers movie since Transformers 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I have that going for me. But, and I mean, that's the thing about tentpole movies, too, is like, there's a reason we all bag on Transformers films because they think they're more important than they actually are.
Yeah.
You know, but
somehow they still make a shit ton of money, and that, you know, it's like Werner Herzog said, you do not avert your eyes. You kind of can't ignore the fact that these still make all the money.
They do, and I don't get it now. I got, like, because Transformers, the first one, like, I had fun, it's fun. Like, it's, you know, it's not intelligent or new or anything like that. But, you know, for big toy movie, alright, I had a good time. It was fine. You know, the second one was like, oh, I get it now. So we're going to go way too long and way too serious and way too, like, you know, and then the series seems to have sort of gone off the rails from there, you know, and now you get Transformers 4, which is nearly 3 hours long, and it's just like, oh, someone got to tell you no, brother. Like, you need a no man just to rein your shit in. But, like, and that's why, like, he did Pain and Gain, and Pain and Gain I enjoyed because that movie, for once, from Michael Bay, wasn't taking itself so seriously.
Like, putting all this fake gravitas into everything.
Yeah, it's like that movie, you know, say what you will about it, and whether or not it's disingenuous, but
it was still a more like, it had a rhythm, he got different writers, and it was like snappy, and it was having a good time. It wasn't taking itself too seriously. It's still kind of smirky, but, you know, it was a step above a lot of the recent things I've seen from him. But, you know, it's like I can appreciate, you know, a big summer popcorn movie, and then I can go out and, you know, a lot of the things I'm vestedly interested in are, you know, the sort of weirder things, or just the smaller things. You know, it's like, I like weird little art house movies or indie movies and stuff like that, or just the things that aren't the main thing every weekend, are usually what I find myself interested in. So, you know, I occupy a weird space, because it's like, I get why giant tentpole movies are not necessarily a good thing, but I don't think they're bad inherently. It's just we have too many of them. Yeah. And it's like, I look at somebody like Marvel, it's like you have your Michael Bay and your you know, you have these Expendables movies and stuff like that, and I look around the landscape, and of everybody who's doing stuff, it's like, I'm okay with parts of Marvel because they do seem to have a plan. They do seem to at least be interested in revitalizing some sort of properties that aren't, you know, just Spider-Man and just, you know, Captain America. It's like, oh, we're doing Ant-Man, that's kind of strange. Oh, we're doing Guardians of the Galaxy, that's kind of strange. Oh, we're going to do Black Panther, cool. Like, you know, it's...
This is going to sound weird, but I haven't been following any of the Ant-Man press, really, but I'm just wondering, how are they going to handle the fact that, like, in the comic books, that character has, like, a really terrible domestic abuse record? It's kind of like the main... Or not the main thing, but, like, for instance, they kind of gloss over the fact that, like, in the comic books, Tony Stark is, like, a crippled alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, that's all this.
So it's like, how are they, like, what do they do about the fact that, like, I think Hank Pym in the comics he's got, like, a really bad domestic abuse record.
Is that the character? I thought his name was, at least whoever Paul Rudd is playing, like Steve something.
Oh yeah, his name is Scott something.
Yeah, so I don't know if...
Oh, that's right.
I don't know.
It's like a different Ant-Man.
Maybe come on. Hank Pym is Michael Douglas.
What?
So it's like a torch pass.
What?
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
Uh-huh. Damn, this screenplay has a lot of writers.
Oh, that's a good sign.
Well, I get it, though. Because they probably took that script and then reworked it.
Oh yeah, post Edgar Wright.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's legitimately a bummer to me, but some of the early word I've heard on Ant-Man is that it at least, you know, kind of separates itself from the general Marvel formula, you could call it. But, you know, it's like, I think I get what Marvel does, and I get why they do it. It's like they're transcribing a comic book universe to a visual medium, so it's like, as much as it's convenient, and it completely allows the machine to feed money in and out of itself. It's like, I get it. It's like you have Thor comics and Iron Man comics and Spider-Man comics and all these comics, and then there are also Avengers comics where they come together, and it's like translating that into film is something that I do think is neat. Its place among a million other things is problematic, but just that concept in and of itself is kind of cool. Like, I get you grow up loving comic books, and now you can see them come to life in much the way that medium operates is neat to me. So I don't think it's inherently a bad thing.
It's almost in a way kind of like taking us back to the days of the cereal in a weird way.
Yeah, and so, you know, for them, it's like they're around all the time, and so I get why they make money, because they're always, you know, raising stakes, and they have a million characters to pull from, and I think that Marvel is at least decent because, you know, they have these big things, but then they'll also be like, nobody knows what Guardians of the Galaxy is outside the comic book community, but let's try that anyway. Let's just bring that out and you know, see what we can do with that. You know, we'll get this weird trauma guy to direct it, and, you know, maybe even hire a woman to work on the script. What a novel idea.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, again, there are certainly troublesome things about just big tentpole superhero movies in general, but
and their sheer numerousness.
Yeah, but, you know, it's weird because we have, you know, everything gets a franchise and everything continues and repeats and stuff like that. And I think I may be wrong, but I think after Avengers 3, whatever Infinity Wars is going to be, I think that next phase will be a shift. I think the whole point is like we have this iteration of the Avengers until Infinity Wars, and then we're going to change either the lineup or we're not going to do Avengers for a while. We're going to do other characters.
I think after Infinity Wars is finished, what they're going to do is, because Marvel is under Disney, so by the time Infinity Wars is finished, they're going to be done with the 3 new Star Wars movies. So Disney's going to take the Marvel and Star Wars money and just buy all human life.
Yeah.
Just buy planet Earth from the Earth.
Yeah, I mean, Disney's a weird
and then we're
machine.
all going to work in the Disney mines.
Disney's a weird machine, man, because with Disney it's like it's scary and insidious that they own pretty much everything that makes money. But they are smart. Like, it's weird. It's like we talked to Mile about Inside Out, and like I think Inside Out is great, you know. And that's granted, that's Pixar, but you know, it's like I've liked a lot of Disney's recent movies, and I like what Marvel does, and they seem to have a smart approach to things. So I'm like, you're kind of evil, but also there's a lot. Like, this is actually kind of good. Like, I like the, and you know, that's, you know, I don't know, but yeah, it's weird because then you look at something like Jurassic World, and you have that opposite side of the spectrum because you have like these Avengers movies that come out constantly. You get, you know, at least 1 or 2 Marvel movies every year, and that kind of creates an empire. But then you look at Jurassic World, which has broken like ridiculous records, and part of why that is or part of that success is tied into the fact that Jurassic Park has been gone for so long. You know, so it's like you have a weird double-sided coin of evidence for stuff.
I wonder if we're going to find out that there's kind of like an absence. There's actually like an absence makes the heart grow fonder effect, where it's like we're going to see kind of like a slow or some kind of diminishing returns with Marvel, but like when a franchise comes back that hasn't been reapproached in a while, it's going to start like making a bigger splash.
Yeah, I've heard the argument a few times where it's like, oh, superhero movies, that bubble's going to burst and people are going to lose interest. And on the one hand, I can see definitely that could be a thing in a, you know, there will always be superhero movies, but just the boom, you know, that they're so prevalent might burst. But on the other hand, I almost wonder that since there are so many characters and so many franchises, I wonder if that would ever happen, because you can just switch. You can just be like, well, people are tired of this guy. Well, we haven't seen that guy in a while. We'll do him. Like, you know, and then, you know, then the machine never stops. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, and now they're talking about Jurassic Park doing another Jurassic World, and I'm like, or I assume they are, because it's broken all of the records. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How? Like, it's the same problem with the original Jurassic Park. It's like, you know, how do you... The whole point is, like, this was the time it didn't work. How are you going to do another movie? Like,
this time, what they're going to do is, the problem isn't that they've genetically spliced a hybrid dinosaur. They've genetically spliced a hybrid park. And it's like the theme park itself is going to come to life, like the volcano in lava.
Yeah.
From the beginning of Inside Out. It's going to just launch dinosaurs at people.
This is, like, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like, that definitely has something to do with Jurassic World's success. You know, partly because Jurassic Park 3 didn't do so well, so they took some time off, and Jurassic Park 3 also didn't have as many things going for it, doesn't seem like.
It had William H. Macy.
William H. Macy. I'm a fan, but I don't think William H. Macy is gonna put butts in seats among the young crowd.
Come on, man. Fargo.
He's great. I love
Shameless.
Shameless didn't exist back then.
Yeah, but
even
now
in Britain, I don't think. But like, you know, I don't think that movie would have done. Jurassic World wouldn't have been as successful if it came out 2 years later. You know, it's because it's been 10 years or whatever that it's like, oh my god, we got. So
but we're not here to talk about Jurassic World.
No, we're not. But yeah, I don't know. It's just TV, movies.
Yeah.
I feel like TV has the ability. It's like you get all the benefits of a franchise without the truncated writing of a franchise. It's like you can explore an idea, you can explore arcs, you can be tangential as long as you're paying off at least a certain amount of thing. Yeah. So I feel like that's why TV...
I guess there's not necessarily a pressure to keep on topping yourself just for the sake of topping yourself in TV. With TV, it's not, the push is more to like, well, what just what would come next, naturally and logically.
Yeah, well, you also don't pay for it the same way, so there's less incentive to be like, how do we get people to spend $15 to see this? Like, it's like if it's every week and, then every year and it's on a schedule, it's like people can latch onto that. But I feel like it's like, you can have your cake and eat it too, in the sense that you can watch something really cool that also has some legit ideas and some legit either, philosophy or character study or whatever. You can have your Breaking Bad where it's like, crazy shit, pretty much, like, shit getting real is pretty much the mode this show exists in, but also, this is actually pretty interesting, and, it's I can sink my teeth into it and sort of explore its ideas as well as shit's getting real constantly. Whereas with movies, barring, the one in a few that comes along where it's like, this is really smart and really fun, you can get both of those more frequently on TV. I think, just because of that longer form, it's hard to develop and pay things off in 2 hours if that's not the focus.
Yeah.
So yeah.
TV and movies.
This is interesting. I don't know. I think this will be just like an ongoing topic as times warp and change.
As we just kind of watch where this goes in the world.
Yep. So, should we get into it?
Let's get into it. Let's get
lonely.
Into it. Let's get lonely. Let's become alone. We're here today to talk to you guys about a spooky thing.
We got really big thing.
Really spooky.
Really big spooky.
Really big.
Really big suit. Really big spooky.
We had somewhat covered a different Alone project in a Proto Dank episode.
Proto Dank back in the SoundCloud days.
Yeah, back in the SoundCloud days.
I think we only got part 1 of that out before they were like, you can't upload.
No more.
Yeah, you gotta pay for this shit.
Yeah.
This stuff. Forgive me.
Watch the mouth with the potty and the language.
Poop coming out of your mouth.
Just all the time.
All the time. Ew.
I mean, how many times have we gone on poop joke tangents with you?
We did a couple poop jokes. There was my Jankum movie.
It's always your fault.
Yeah, we had a poop. We had a poop.
We had a poop.
We had a poop.
That's my favorite Cameron Crowe movie, by the way.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It was We Bought a Zoo.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Matt Damon. That's the dude. I'm sorry. I've seen the Martian trailer like a billion times now.
Yeah.
And like it looks awesome.
But
there's some. I feel really horrible saying this about somebody, but like I keep seeing that directed by Ridley Scott, and I'm like, ooh, you've burned me before.
I don't know if I'm ready to trust you again.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to trust you again with space, man.
This is just gonna end in tears. Well, no, hopefully, like we had discussed before, this time, to my knowledge, The Martian has no Damon Lindelof prints on it.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude loves questions.
I guess the Martian will be our tell. Like, whose fault was Prometheus? Was it Damon Lindelof's fault, or was it Ridley Scott's fault?
I gotta imagine it's both of their faults. Because like, Ridley Scott doesn't seem like... If Ridley Scott wants to change something, he probably can. Especially since Alien, even though it was like, we're just in the same universe.
And it's also Exodus Gods and Kings wasn't well received. And that had
nor was Robin Hood, and nor was like The Next 2 Days, and nor was like,
God, I've forgotten about all these.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Ridley Scott movie in a while where I've been like, oh my god, this is great. Like, and
maybe you should just retire and go back to working on recutting Blade Runner.
No, they're done with that. Never gonna recut. But yeah, no, it's like, Exodus Gods and Kings.
The Counselor, I think I heard was okay, or maybe I heard the director's cut. I think is really good, and the theatrical cut is not really good.
Jerry,
What?
Alone.
Okay, we gotta get back on topic. We'll stop hustling
And flowing.
and flowing. Hustle and bro. Dude, you know that was a frat party somewhere.
Oh no.
Hustle and bro.
With DJ Ackerman.
DJ Scott Ackerman?
No, I was just thinking of like, it's a DJ, but then it's just like some white guy name.
Yeah. DJ Stan Leibowitz. Stan's pretty chill, dude.
So Alone is not quite a Halloween haunt.
It's an immersive art experience. It is an exploration of human emotion and things like loneliness and
stuff,
fear and isolation.
So the origins is that it was started by two Cal Arts grads who have like design jobs, who decided to create their own answer to, haunted houses, where instead of like clowns coming at you with chainsaws in a dark corridor, it's
dudes waterboarding you, dudes calling you a cunt really loud.
Yeah, it's you experiencing, being in a dark, silent room with something that is strange that you don't know if it's human or safe or trustworthy or not.
Yeah, it's it's more artistic, more cerebral than a lot of the haunts that are, it's extreme in the sense that, like, you go in, you sign a waiver, it's like people can touch you, it'll be a very, personal experience. They're not going to cup your testicles.
Oh.
Sorry. Erica's in the room.
Erica's in the booth.
Making gestures.
Lewd gestures.
Lewd and crude and ghost walking.
And ghost walking. That's... One of these days we will describe to you how ghosts walk.
Yeah.
It's called the ghost walk.
We'll do an animatic someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so it's like, it's kind of like, a friend of mine described it as like being in a David Lynch movie, and that was...
I did get that vibe from going through this most recent round.
Yeah, and
you went through the 2014 one. Yeah?
I did, yeah. I didn't make the first show. They got this started on a Kickstarter, and they did their first year. I didn't actually end up at. That was before my extreme haunting days, and I'm not even that extreme, but...
Extreme.
And from what I heard, the first one was cool. It was like you were in the basement of this building, and it was just you and a flashlight and, various things. I've heard it was a little more blackouty than first year, but I don't really know. The second year...
Blackout is a haunt that is very, like, aggressive and has kind of like a very sexual way of kind of haranguing you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get the sense that Blackout is more aggressive and more... I guess more ugly. It's more imposing and formidable. It's like their whole thing is, they want to kind of, their thing is intimidating. It's like, you're scared to go into Blackout because, it's like they're going to put a bag on your head and like dump water on you and then, force you to dig around and vomit or something like that. Fake vomit, but, nonetheless. It's going to make you uncomfortable. It's, they're naked people, stuff like that.
God, no.
Well, there was a room. I got the sense that at least the shows I've heard about are made to play on different fears and discomforts. Usually more aggressive in nature, because Blackout seems to be people kind of talk about making it through in a way that sounds like it's very extreme and very sort of like it's going to push your limits. And Alone is a little different from that. I mean, it might push your limits, but in a different way. They're not interested in, in jumping out and tackling you or scaring you that way. It's more
getting in your head.
Yeah, it's about getting under your skin and getting in your head and playing with your mind. And, like they say in their literature and stuff like that, it's about exploring things like fear and loneliness and isolation and, the dark, stuff like that. So the second year, from what everyone told me, is sort of where they found their more sure footing, and they came up with this whole sort of vague storyline about what they called the Enola Foundation, which was like this new agey, spiritual sort of cult thing. And all their, they always have a voice that all the emails and all the literature is written in. And so Enola was very sort of warm and very, Enola loves you, it's all matter is
the same, and it's just all particles vibrating at a different rate. You know, we will come together as one. And that was the sort of theme they wrote into the October show, which was the one I wound up at. I didn't wind up at some of the earlier ones.
Because they were doing this whole ramp-up thing up to their October haunt. Like, they did Scare LA, which is a trade show for people who make and work in the Halloween haunt industry in the LA area, where they did an exhibition that basically they had a miniature version of what they do, like in the basement of Scare LA. Yeah. That people did different write-ups on.
And that was, you know, in the vein of the whole, like, Enola Body storyline.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think they had one other thing I heard about, and then they had their October show, which was, like, the main, you know, the centerpiece of the table. And then after that, you know, there was the scavenger hunt
in January.
In January that we did, that sort of wrapped up that story, because it's not always going to be Enola Foundation.
Yeah, the Enola Foundation seems like, as a storyline thing, is not in the picture. This new one doesn't even have, like, a storyline or an overarching, like, broader narrative surrounding it. It just kind of has a theme.
Yeah, it has a theme. And I mean, the thing about Alone is, like, the first year I went, which was 2014, when we went to that show, you know, it's like you do walk through Alone. You were on your own, and it's just
no flashlight this time.
No flashlight. You're not allowed to bring in any sort of light emitting device or recorder. You know, they're very strict about that, and for good reason. And they brought it, like, when we went, they brought us in 5 at a time, and we were all sort of lined up doing this breathing exercise. Like, we started the experience together. And pretty soon, each one of us was individually abducted.
Yeah.
And then you're going through a whole, you know, half-hour, 40-minute experience by yourself, you know, and it's just you not knowing what room is going to be next, and you are sometimes crawling through things, you know, sometimes you're in the dark, sometimes you're somebody put a bag over my head and made me run at one point. Like, they're good at playing on different senses and different fears, and some of it, the best way I could sum it up was, like, the Alone I went to in October was like parts creepy and unsettling, parts scary, and then other parts were kind of touching and beautiful and very soothing in a way. So it was just a very different and a very strange experience, and in a way that really brought you into the room, because it was like, it was not what you expected, but not just because they're surprising you with stuff. It was like also just the tone and the sort of mood of the place was different than expected. You know, it wasn't... It managed to be scary without being, like, bro-ishly aggressive or carnival-like, which was just a nice change of pace, you know, because I can get down with a lot of different things, but this was just really cool and sort of, you know, the artier side, the more cerebral side, the more, you know, again, it plays on your mind and it gets under your skin more than just, you know, being afraid of where the next pop is going to come from.
Yeah.
And so they're doing their new show this year, and it seems like each year they get a little more assured in the form, because this year there are 4 distinct parts.
Yeah, it's based off of, like, the theme with last year's haunt and the scavenger hunt that we did in January, which was interesting because the scavenger hunt took us all around downtown LA to get, like, clues and info, and there's this underlying storyline of, like, these kind of, like, warring factions, the Enola Foundation, and then this other group, and it's like each one was telling you that the other one was lying to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was this promise of some kind of enlightenment or some kind of, like, you know, transcendent experience at the end of it that was all very vague, but then it was turned around saying, oh, there's no such thing. And it was, like, very creepy to have that experience of, like, bouncing around the city after hours, having different people tell you that the person you just left from and just got directions from is, like, leading you astray, that you are supposed to go some other direction.
Yeah. And so, you know, you're almost, you know, you're actively in a little storyline.
Yeah.
You know, and it was cool, and it also just made me realize how much there is to the city. But, you know, it was all sort of creepy and strange. And, you know, it seemed like the pieces of that storyline kind of came together, not haphazardly, but, like, you know, they were asked to do something at Scare LA, and they sort of put something together, and then there was at least one more event
at least from what I've heard. And then there was the main show, and then the scavenger hunt kind of came together to sort of wrap that up. And now this year with Unweave the Rainbow, which is their new show.
Their new show, it's called, it's Unweave the Rainbow, and it's in 4 parts, and each one's named after part of the process of what happens when light encounters an object. So it's going on. There was a June show that we just did. They're dark in July. They're coming back for Scarlet for an August show. Then there's going to be a September show and an October show.
Yeah.
And they're named respectively Diffusion, Refraction, Reflection, and Absorption.
Yeah.
And we just went through Diffusion.
We just went through Diffusion, part 1 of the event.
Yeah. Which was like at a little old God, what the...
Just in a little black box theater.
Yeah, it was like all in like this little playhouse, this little
Well, that's the thing too, is they're all site specific. You know, it's all dependent on sort of which building they can get.
Yeah.
You know, for how long. And I don't know their plan, obviously, but I feel like they're kind of going to ramp up with each consecutive index, as they're calling them.
Yeah, the index of diffusion, index of refraction, index of reflection.
And they're good at kind of playing with. They're good at playing with alone and togetherness, because you know, it's like in the one I went to, we kind of thought we were going in together. I mean, we all knew, like, it was like, you're going to be alone, and then pretty soon, yes, we were alone pretty quickly in a pretty unsettling way. This time was like they found yet another way to kind of
divide us apart, bring us together, divide us apart, bring us together.
Yeah, exactly.
And it fits with the term of diffusion, because when they were describing diffusion in their literature, they're saying, you know, they're talking about the way in which ideas permeate through a group of people.
Yeah,
is what the literature is talking about. And what's interesting is, like, and it also ties back to the whole thing of, like, this episode of the Rainbow Saga took place in a playhouse. First thing that happens is we all group up outside, everyone that was during our showtime. We get pulled in randomly by the attendees, who are all in black, and just are placed in seemingly random but seemingly ordered chairs. So you're nowhere near the people that you came in with. And you're sitting in the theater seats, and the lights are extremely dim. It's practically pitch black in there. And then these people come out, and they, on the stage, and they do a scene from
The Crucible.
And The Crucible, for anyone who doesn't know, is a play in the 50s that was really about McCarthyism, but it's taking the idea of McCarthyism and it takes place during the Salem witch trials.
Filthy commies!
Yeah. So it's like, you know, this whole thing of mass hysteria and of, like, a delusional hunt for enemies within your own ranks, and, like, not trusting the people that you're with, and, you know, just kind of, like, lies spreading throughout it. And they're doing this scene from The Crucible that's basically like the act break, the scene where it's like the lie of, like, seeing witches starts, you know, seeing people consort.
Devil.
Yeah, seeing people consort literally with the devil, like,
with the
first
devs.
hits. And when that scene is going on, there are attendants, and then when the scene ends, the actors of the scene are pulling people randomly off the stage and making them go under this table and just crawl through the rest of the...
not when the scene ends, during the scene.
Yeah, during the scene... During the scene, attendants are pulling you in, and then when the scene ends, the actors join in on grabbing people, too. And making you crawl... Yeah. It's like, because you went through early. Yeah. You got pulled up early, and I got pulled through, like, after the scene was concluded. And the actors, like, grabbed the remaining people. And they make you crawl under this table, and then you're in, like, this weird kind of, like, backstage gap. And in pitch darkness, you kind of have to find your way forward. There's just, like, the absolute most minimal amount of light.
Yeah.
And from there it gets interesting.
Yeah, you sort of traverse just the bowels of this theater and the surrounding area in a sense, you know, encountering these different scenarios, some of which you are alone for, and others of which
you're thrown to a group out of nowhere.
You're thrown to a group, and what I thought was kind of cool this time is, like, it's like they seem like to really be able to use their space, and you know, they get clever with how to use, like, this time it seemed like they used people, they used us against each other in a sense, because, like,
and in specific instances in the the duration of the haunt. It's also like talking about using the space. They made what's probably from the outside it's clearly a small building, and they made this little like repertory theater really labyrinthine.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you really got the sense that you were using pretty much all of the various wings and corridors and dressing rooms and stuff like that. They really did use everything, and it's like, you would happen onto these scenarios in which,
as you're passing through it, you don't feel like I mean, I could not translate in my head the path I took through that whole maze to how the actual workings of that theater would actually be like. It just felt like I was going through these weird tunnels and just popping into these arbitrary places.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much that's sort of disorienting, and they do turn you around and put you places. And
they take you outside of the building, then put you back into it in weird spots.
Yeah, yeah.
You go upstairs and downstairs, and you can't quite tell where any of those stairs are.
Yeah, and it was like I went into one room, and it was neat because it's like I happened on a bunch of people, and my first instinct was like, I don't know how many of these people are. I know a lot of us are here, but I don't know if these are all actors, if none of these are actors, like what should I do? Like, it was cool to kind of have that.
And this was, I mean, because my first experience with Alone was going to that scavenger hunt where it was like, there were moments where I felt like, oddly enough, just the duration of that scavenger hunt, like something about myself was kind of being revealed to me in a weird way.
Yeah, well, that's sort of like what...
I guess that's kind of what they're going for. It's like they do want to play off of your emotions and have you... it's like have you have like a sudden like emotional reaction to stuff and kind of understand what that means. Like a regular Halloween haunt, you get scared or you don't get scared, and all that's really going to tell you is like, oh, I was caught off guard or not, or my tolerance for sudden loud noises, I was startled or not, or how much I'm affected by the theatricality of this place or not. Whereas with Alone, it's like, you're kind of like taken out of your element, and you're suddenly like revealed with how well can you trust a stranger out of nowhere? How like what is like sudden like what does physical contact or kind of forced intimacy do to you?
Well, and that's what's cool is because I mean, coming from a more carnival haunty background, it's like I like that, and I understand what it's for, but this is neat because it's like in that environment, in a carnival haunt environment, it's like you accept the rules, and then you sort of walk through. You don't touch anything, and you only challenge so much. You're only sort of walking through so much of it. Whereas something like this is like you get out what you put into it.
Yeah.
So it's like there's going to be a certain amount of bare minimum interaction regardless, but given certain scenarios, how much you choose to let go and just submit to them or engage with them, that determines where your head's going to go or what you're going to get out of the experience. And I think that's really cool, because it depends on where your mind takes you and what you allow yourself to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because it's highly interactive that way. I mean, like there's a fixed route, and obviously there's etiquette, but in certain scenarios, like there was one room in the last haunt they did, which was like you were crawling through this giant pillow fort almost. It was like it looked like someone had hung a sheet, and there were a bunch of stuffed animals, and you were sort of crawling in it, and then a mass of them starts to move. And from underneath them just comes this sort of amorphous fuzz thing, this sort of stuffy, fuzzy thing, and it sort of crawls towards you and starts to, like nuzzle you and stuff like that. It was very strange, but, it's like I heard different accounts of what people would do in that room, and like
such as.
Well, one of our friends like actually cuddled up with it and just then he got very vulnerable and just sort of cuddled up with it.
He's clearly like an actor in like this very elaborate suit that turns him into just this weird stuffed animal shape thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like I was a little more on guard at that point, sort of looking around.
Yeah. And
he was more just like, we're cuddling, like and it just kind of opens you up in ways, And again, it's like there are certain rooms that are about how much will you trust or how much will you engage. It's like if somebody comes up to you in this weird demented scenario and wants to dance with you, what do you do with that, especially if they're a stranger.
Yeah.
And various other things, but you know, like those are some of the interactive.
There were some weird highlights in there. Like at one point, everyone gets into this dressing room that's constantly got a strobe going.
Yeah.
And before you get into that room, you're instructed to go into this room, take the clothing off the walls, dress people up in the clothing, and then undress them, and then dress them again with different clothing. And that's basically the instructions you're given. And so when you get into this, when you get into this room, there's a constant strobe flashing. People are standing around or walking around. There are all these costume bits and all these weird like bits of clothes and like streamers and tassels and stuff and pants and shirts that they want you to put on people. And when I went in, the guy who runs the room, who was like this dude in this like kind of like flashy red jacket that in a cane, holding a cane that was like kind of smiley and kind of awkward acting and kind of like demented and Mad Hattery, like saying, "Welcome to my party."
Welcome to my party.
Yeah, and it was like perusing the room and just kind of like being like foppish and bemused with people. Not bemused, but amused with people.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was like wide-eyed and just going through this room, and he had directed somebody to play on the piano, but the piano was kind of janky and like amelodic, so it's like a flashing light and this sound of like a detuned piano falling downstairs, and just people putting someone put a Uniqlo shirt on me, I think it was, because it's very stretchy and space fabric-y feeling.
Yeah. I ended up in like this tan jacket with like people were tying ribbon. There were a lot of these like these ribbon things people were tying on each other and stuff like that. I put a dude in a skirt, like,
and the thing is, you get yanked and put in that room, and then you get taken out of that room and used as like a grabber claw by another actor to yank people back into that room before you're set on your way.
Interesting. See, I was just yanked back out again. Like,
yeah.
I was just apprehended and pushed back into the dark, the void of the hallway.
Yeah, before I was thrown back into the hallway, I was used as a gripper claw to pull more people into that dressing room.
Yeah.
And so it's weird, because, like, was I pulled by another just visitor that was turned into a grabber?
You never know. Well, that's the cool thing, is it seems like everyone has a slightly different experience, you know. Sometimes they'll take your hand and if you're in a room with other people, sometimes they'll take your hand and sort of place it on somebody else's. Yeah. You know, sometimes they won't. Sometimes, you know, it's like the way every actor sort of interprets you is also different.
Yeah.
And then there were certain things that were very sensory.
Like,
you know, apart from the strobe light, there was a bit where they put this white sheet over our heads and laid us down, and there was this like
laid you down on a bundle of cloth, and like there were red, green, and blue flashing lights that you were looking at through this not, it wasn't like a gauzy or transparent sheet. It was pretty matte, but like the light was still flashing through pretty clearly.
Well, that was trippy. Like, I actually kind of succumbed to that and just sort of started to not trip in full, but just kind of trip with the play of the lights and the you know, that. And
they had like this discordant noise rock playing.
Oh yeah, there's always discordant noise when it comes to Alone.
Yeah.
There's always, you know, it's a very sort of...
I assume whoever's doing the music for the Haunts, and I think the music is done by, like, the main creators. I assume they're big Swans fans.
Yeah, probably. Because, like, you know, there's that element. It's like it's very surreal and very dissonant, but also kind of beautiful and kind of, you know, mystical. You know, it's just a completely different side of the quote-unquote haunt industry, you know, and it's... just so nice to have that.
And then there was the dance party room.
Oh yeah, there was a room with a DJ.
Yeah, there was a DJ and a guy on a guitar.
There was a guy on a guitar?
I saw a dude playing a guitar. Now I don't know if like
I see that.
Now I don't know if it was just like, you know, in the room with the piano where it's like it was like another guest or another entrant who saw it just sitting there and decided to start playing it.
Was he by the DJ?
Yeah, he was standing by the DJ.
Was he behind the deck?
No, he was in front of it. It was...
Oh, interesting.
So it's like, I think a dude came by, either there was an actor there for a bit playing the guitar, or a dude came by, saw the guitar, and started playing it of his own volition, or he was directed to it.
See, that room, like, I was instructed, and I guess some people did it. I was instructed not by a person, but by a recording to, you know, find masks
find the unmasked people, place the mask on their face, and like
yeah, I didn't even hear that. I couldn't make that out in that room.
Yeah,
this wasn't the dance party room. This was the wardrobe room that you put masks on people. Yeah,
it was in the dance party because it said you will come into a room with a big table and something, lots of people.
Really, what room did you hear these directions?
They put me in a closet for a while.
Oh wow!
It's right after they put the sheet on my head, and then he guided me through the room, put me in a closet, and told me to wait there. And there was like a looping recording of what at first, it's like it fades into your mind. It's like at first you're just like, where am I, and is someone going to grab me? And then after a while you start to sort of pick up just on what the thing is saying.
Huh.
And so I was like, interesting,
I must have not been put in that closet because I don't remember getting those instructions.
I don't know. It seems like everyone's experience varied slightly,
bit, yeah. And that's another thing, because like that you can appreciate about loans. Like even if you're going into and out of groups of people, you do still feel like this is really getting to you and targeting you.
Yeah, it's like even if there are other people around, you don't feel. It's not that thing. It's like when you go through a haunted house at a theme park, you feel safe because you got your friend with you.
Yeah.
But this is like they explore these concepts of aloneness and togetherness, but you always feel like an individual.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, you never feel like you quite have a group or an ally because somebody can focus specifically on you at any moment, and inevitably you are grabbed and directed. Independent of everybody.
It's like any other haunt. Even if someone like targets you, they're targeting you because it's like you just happen to be that person that passes by them in the line at that point.
Whereas with this, it's like everyone. This is what you paid for. Everyone is an individual.
They are
target.
Distinctly coming at.
Yeah,
coming at you.
Coming at you
live
and direct.
Yeah,
from the dark